What's your name, Mr. Deal? Yeah. Mr. Deal. I want to congratulate you. Good luck.
Thank you.
He'll need it. Let's call the committee of the whole meeting to order. Tuesday, the 26th of June, 2007 at 7 o'clock p.m. Councilman Porter is present. Councilwoman Garner is present. Councilwoman Waldman is here. Vice Mayor Losner and Councilwoman Bell. Item 2A is the discussion of the approval of the June 12, 2007 minutes. Moved by Councilwoman Bell. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Porter. Is there any questions on the minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2B is a discussion of potential residential building moratorium. Councilwoman Bell?
Thank you. Mayor, I read the minutes. I was in Kansas City, Missouri when the item was brought up, and I read, and I thought the comments from the council were very good and very, very good observations. And the reason I brought up the moratorium is because all of the calls I have been receiving and driving around town myself, we are just in such traffic gridlock. Infrastructure is just not seeming to be able to catch up. And so the only thing that I had mentioned was the possibility of looking into a residential building moratorium on high-density projects, kind of multifamily and high-density. And I asked the attorneys to look into the feasibility, with the permission of council, to look into the feasibility of that. And I guess high-density would be considered anything over 6 units to the acre, and I was just very, very concerned. I didn't want there to be any moratorium on any type of commercial activity. We don't want to stop any type of commercial activity. I didn't want it to interfere with anything that's already been in the approval process, anything that's already come before planning and zoning in the process. I mean, I didn't want to stop or impede anything that's already been started. But if we drive around this town, I mean, we are just swamped, and I have been getting, that seems to be lately, I would say, when I say lately, I'd say about the last 3 to 5 months, the most of my comments and phone calls and seeing people in the, the stores and around town is, oh my gosh, we are just, it used to take, 3 minutes to get from my house to Chrome, and now it's taking me 15 minutes, and it's only this, this far. And so that's why I brought it up. And I really brought it up as an item of discussion. And then I saw that there was a press release put out, I read it, by Lillian Delgado and Councilman Porter on what is going on with infrastructure. So thank you for that, Councilman Porter. That was excellent. But I just really wanted this to be an item, a topic for discussion. I wanted the city's attorneys to look at it to see if it was feasible. And can we do a residential moratorium and exclude the commercial? Because I don't want to stop any commercial growth. We really need that. We want our people that, if the people that live here can work here, that takes cars, more cars off the road, not on the road. So I'm trying to be practical about this. And I just thought that it was something that really merited some discussion. If it was, I see that there's really, and I understand all of the comments. I see that there really wasn't like a lot of support for it, but I think it opens up some very, very good dialogue. So I really did want to have that dialogue, Mayor. So I really would invite comments from our staff, from the attorneys, and from council. And is there, if there's not support for it, then there's not support for it. But I thought it was something that really merited some looking into. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Mayor, any comment, Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree, Ms. Bell. There's traffic problems throughout the entire city. I think for different reasons. It's my perception that most, if not all, of the gridlock west of US 1 is currently occasioned by a couple of basic items. The busway construction and the failure of the county to put turn signals on the Chrome Avenue intersections and to address the signals at Flagler and 11th, 15th and US 1, and 11th and US 1. And I think if we can survive through the busway construction and get that fine-tuning done to the signalization on the west side, we're going to be in far better shape. And certainly, sometime down the road, so to speak, we may have turn lanes all up and down Chrome Avenue in town. I think the west side will be in good shape, and certainly I met today with several members of our staff and the attorneys, and the Northwest Master Plan is going to come forward for approval in a couple of weeks, and that's going to address the higher density issues there. There's been a moratorium in place on the entire west side of the town for over a year for building in excess of that, and clearly I know exactly where you were coming from, and I sympathize with you. It's as much a policy thing as it is a gridlock thing. I think this had its roots in the audience objections to one of the zoning approvals we had a few weeks ago, where it was approved for 9.98 units per acre, and we're starting to see the smaller scale developments rather than the comprehensive. And again, I'll repeat this, is that at this point, when we get back to that famous pipeline word or the grandfathered word, what's really left to borrow? And I don't know the answer to that. And I'd kind of like to know who doesn't have vested rights east of US 1 that may have land use overlays that allow for more than 6 units per acre. I think that's what we need to look at and kind of get into the policy decision as to whether or not we even, if we want to further diversify the housing stock. I think we've had a run on townhouses on the east side, and to me it's more of a, let's sit back and let's see what our housing mix is, equally as much as a traffic issue on the east side. And I know that, as Campbell Drive continues to come online and some of those other 328 and the others, those things are going to get better over there. So I would at least like to take a look at what development approved parcels don't necessarily have those rights in excess of 6. It's kind of interesting. Many times applicants make the argument that it's a good thing to convert this from commercial to residential because residential generates less traffic. And now we're faced with, we want all the commercial development we can get, yet we're faced with this traffic dilemma, but yet we need the commercial to continue. So if we're going to go anywhere with this, it's kind of like, let's take inventory of the diversity of our housing and kind of reconcile that. And I know, there's these nice aerial photos floating around City Hall that show approvals in process and approvals done, and very nicely show that. And it might be just a good, we haven't had one of those council retreats in this building, such as it is, to sit back and on an informal and public basis take a look at those issues. Absolutely.
Well, Vice Mayor, I agree. I would like to take a look at those, but it's not, quite frankly, it wasn't just about the busway construction. It's about traffic gridlock all over the town. And my target was not single family either. It was multifamily. If you remember, it was multifamily, high-density multifamily. I wasn't trying to target anything that was medium, like 6 units or less. I wasn't trying to target anything that was single-family. We do seem to have a glut of multifamily homes, and you do stack them in a lot. They do get stacked in, and I certainly did not want to target anything commercial. So, but I think those are fair comments, and maybe we do need to take a look at and bring back some raw numbers to council. I think that might be very, very helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Any other comments on the moratorium?
Let's let Jeff get those lights fixed that we know all need to be fixed, and everything will be fine, right?
It's like pulling teeth from the county to get anything. They come down and do an adjustment, and it's a 0.505 second adjustment, and it's no positive net effect in the traffic flow. But I agree with you, Vice Mayor, that the significant challenges right now are the busway and the basically splitting the city in half. But the traffic congestion issue was something that we were trying to address in this press release. And once we can get out the attachment of the dollars that are actually attached to these projects, it's well over $50 million worth of road improvements that are going to be done inside the city limits over the next 2 to 4 years. So as this infusion of money is being put on the roads, we're still going to have significant challenges just like we have with the busway now. although it's not going to be north-south cutoffs or delays, it's going to be some east-west delays. Currently you see the 328th Street project going on right now, and then the Campbell Drive corridor right at the Turnpike on and off ramp. So there's going to be 6 lanes being constructed there by the development that's the DDR development, and that has to be in place prior to the development being built. That's a part of the requirement. So the only concern that I think we need to be careful of when we talk about the hurdles, again, of the transportation and the hurdles that we talk about with what we consider a little bit more density. Along the busway, we've designed a corridor that has some density attached to it because it's supposed to realistically relieve some of the traffic issues, because people can actually live in the neighborhood of the transportation system if they go back and forth to a county or a job farther up the road. So if we automatically limit the density around the busway, as we talked about this project with the shotgun houses, we wanted to put a little more density there. So I just want us to be careful to not go back and again damage a community that is probably going to have a little more density attached to it than a 6-unit per acre. And then we go back and again, it's another, for the Southwest community, what's been a 2 or 3 year moratorium turns into a 5 or 6 year moratorium, and we get really no economic stimulus down there from a residential component. So I know that there's concerns about traffic. I think that everybody needs to see, and we'll get time limits to all the information, because the article would be too big if we attach the dollar value, the time limit, and the actual what is actually being constructed. So we're going to come out with little informational pieces on each project that'll give us all a good idea of what's being done and a realistic time frame on when it's going to be done, so that we can be looking for it. Unfortunately, it's like we had the problems with the schools. It's the houses came first and the schools came second. I think it's the same scenario that we're dealing with the traffic concerns. Unfortunately, the commercial and the residential comes first, and then the traffic concerns get addressed based on the impact fees and the concurrency models that we have to run. So I don't know if limiting development is going to necessarily take care of the traffic concerns. I think they kind of run hand in hand, and the Vice Mayor is correct. When we talk about the Kendallization problem, or the being like Kendall, you've got developments, smaller developments that want to look like their own development, so they don't want to necessarily join to the community next to them. And that's what you see in Kendall, because you've got one townhome design or one residential design behind 3 walls with 1 entrance out the front. And I think that's what you're talking about, Vice Mayor, isn't it, with the concerns of the connectivity that...
Absolutely.
So that's going to be, I think that's our really biggest next hurdle when these little 5 or 6 or 7 acre, 2 acre, 5 acre lots come along. How do we allow them to blend in with more than one access point? So I'm not convinced that a moratorium is really going to make any difference, because we've got 4 years or better worth of road projects, and you're going to see roughly $50 million infusion of road improvements over a 4-year process. And if we put a building moratorium over a 5 or 6 year process, then we would have a gap of no funding mechanism to do any more road improvements. So I think we just need to be careful, because generally speaking, as we have concurrency issues and the radius of those concurrencies, they can do an improvement in almost in a Florida City community that would suffice for them as a residential component here, or a commercial component inside our own city. And conversely, you can have developments outside the city limits that can take over the concurrency or the traffic models that we have inside our own city. So it's really it's a tough situation, because there's only going to be, that road is only going to be able to have so many trips allocated to it, and we're close to most of the east-west roads. Well, even with some of the improvements, they're going to be getting close to a max. So I'm not really convinced that that's going to be the answer right now.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I think the Vice Mayor mentioned at the last Committee of the Whole that we have no control over the growth around us,
Right, Florida City.
south of us, north of us, that we really have no control, and especially the ones that are coming through Homestead to the Keys. And I think as Mr. Porter said earlier, we've had a 3-4 year moratorium in the Southwest. We currently have a moratorium in the Northwest. And now we're saying let's look at a citywide moratorium. For what period of time? Do we do it for 8 months, 12 months? Well, you're not going to see road improvement in 8 months, 12 months. You're looking out 3, 4, 5 years to get that $50 million out there and get those roads online. But in the meantime, let's not handicap our commercial and industrial developments that I think it's leapfrogging now, especially on the east side. And certainly the need for development on the southwest side, and the soon to be the implementation of the Northwest Master Plan. So I think we, as always with anything else, you don't have the funds if you don't have the growth. If we stagnate the growth, we won't have the transportation dollars coming in to build those roads that we have in the pipeline. So it's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. But I think we have a plan. We have a comprehensive transportation master plan. The good thing about it is that we have identified the funding mechanism to build these roads that we need to make a difference. So we're just going to have to put up with the gridlock for a while, but the road's in the pipeline. So along with the busway. So I can't think of any major road improvement is not on the drawing board. It's not in the pipeline. So I just think it's a matter of us moving forward with the construction and getting the word out to our community of what was taking place. I'd really like to thank the news reader for the article today on some of those major road improvements, but I just think the community, we need to get that word out more, because there are going to be some construction delays in many parts of this community for years to come. But at the end of the day, you know, the investment is there. That $50 million is there to make a difference in terms of infrastructure in Homestead. So, but I just don't see, Councilwoman Bell, what will a moratorium, not less, if we talk about a moratorium, you at a minimum you need 3 years to see an impact.
Well, Mayor, I understand there's not the support, and I think it was really good food for discussion. Yeah. And I wasn't trying to stop growth. I wanted to slow growth. And I thought a moratorium, at least maybe 1 year moratorium, and it would have precluded the master plans, because the master plans I already have, it wouldn't have been, you know, saying now the master plan has to be changed. Those would have been inclusive. That's if the master plan designated a certain amount of units per acre in the master plan, then that would have stood. We still would have received commercial impact fees because commercial was not impacted. So there was things I thought about before I brought it up, because the good majority of the impact fees that come for dollars, and I'm talking about road dollars, come from commercial development, and I wasn't proposing that we stopped any commercial development. But I think they're good comments. I think they're really good comments, but I think it was good discussion, because, and when I talk about slowing growth, sometimes you need to slow growth to allow the infrastructure to catch up, and that's what we were talking about, not stopping growth. But I understand the comments. We do have a Northwest Master Plan. That would have stayed in place. It wouldn't have affected the Northwest Master Plan or the Southwest Master Plan. That would have stayed. The density would have remained the density. So that wasn't meant to affect any of those. It wasn't meant to affect any current items. But I think it's just, let's just go ahead and put it to rest. We've got a big agenda, so let's just move on.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments? If not, we will move on to item 2C. I shared with the council at the last council meeting that the manager and I had a scheduled meeting with the superintendent. And as I mentioned earlier, about 30 days prior to the meeting we had last Wednesday, Mr. Manager? The superintendent asked us to give him some time to put some concept on paper, and he was going to get back with me and the manager. Well, he said 90 days, but he really got back to us in about 30, 45 days. And what I'd like to do is just give you a brief update, and a copy of his letter to me is in your packet. I hope everybody has read this letter, because it outlines a concept that I am very excited about from the superintendent. And at our meeting, he shared with us, I think it was a draft site plan for that K through 8, Mr. Manager, on that K through 8 on Southwest 152nd Avenue and Southwest 223rd Street, where they're proposing to build a K through 8, about 1,600 student stations, and in addition to the K through 8, a 9th grade academy or a 9th grade center. That's in the work. They're moving rapidly in making that happen. We then got on a discussion about the 32 acres site, and the superintendent is interested in the 32-acre site, and is also interested in paying what additional costs that the EFBD have outlaid to consume that, to move forward, not with the K through 8 on that site, but a very unique idea about putting an environmental agricultural center on that site to train our students in the agri-sciences, the entrepreneurial kind of farmer market concept, teaching our kids how to run a farmer's market. He talked about careers in environmental science technicians and consultants, plant scientists, food scientists, research biologists, hydrology, wetland ecology, veterinarian technologists and technicians, putting this, I think, this unique concept in place in Homestead that is unique to any other high schools in the state of Florida. And as you know, we have this debate about the status of the EFBD and this whole idea about a charter school issue. So I just wanted to ask that you read the comprehensive concept, because it is, to me, it is very impressive and unique. We have scheduled a further discussion on the EFBD, I think it's on Thursday. Did we schedule that for Thursday?
Yes.
So I don't want to get into a debate about the EFBD and the status of the EFBD, because I think all of us have asked the attorneys to look at the legal implications and give us an update on the status of it and where do we go from here. And the July 12th meeting with the community will come after that. So, but I just want to say that whatever happened in the last 30, 45 days, the school board is ready to move forward with the 32-acre site, and they are certainly moving forward with the K through 8 on the Oasis site in our community. And some of you know, 2 weeks ago, the school board did approve the purchase of the old hospital. And that's going to be a medical magnet, teaching kids in nursing and medical technology. So I think some first-class programs and quality education is coming in Homestead. And I think we need to look at this, and I'd like to discuss this further, because I did tell the superintendent I would brief the council on the meeting, and Mr. Manager can chime in and add whatever else that I may have missed. But whatever message that need to be sent to the superintendent, he got it. They're ready to move. He's made 2 additional requests, that the outstanding invoices, they'd like to see them, and they'd like to have access to the 32-acre site so they can determine the cost for the decontamination of the site. So those was his 2 requests to me and the manager. And that's where we were asking for legal advice on Thursday, and hopefully we get some further direction from the city attorneys. But it was a beautiful meeting. I certainly like this environmental center. That's all I can tell you. I think it's a unique concept. It will be unique, certainly in Miami-Dade County. And it's an area of concentration that I think our young people will gravitate to. And it embraces really the beauty of what we have to offer you in Deep South Dade. And as you read the letter, he has connected the 2 national parks to be part of this learning process, and some of our orchid nurseries and others in the community that is in the business will be a part of the training and teaching of our young people. So when they leave high school, they'll have some choices in agri-science and environmental studies, and you name it. So I think it would, it's just a unique concept, and something I think we need to look at, and Ms. Bell, certainly your education committee need to look at it. I hope at some point we could digest this even further, and maybe on Thursday.
Mayor,
so that's my update. Mr. Manager, and then any additional comments?
No, Mayor, I think you covered.
Ms. Bell?
Yeah, first of all, I think there's been a little confusion too, because it was on tonight's agenda, and then we're discussing it on Thursday, and then we're discussing it on the 12th. I really kind of wish we probably would have done everything on Thursday rather than having this drawn out, but I was told that we needed a separate meeting for the community, a separate meeting for this, but in retrospect, it's very confusing to the community, and we probably should have done everything this coming Thursday, but it's out there. July 12th is going to be a big discussion. But, Mayor, really, truly, with all due respect, I read this, and I respect your opinion a lot, but I have a real problem with this. I am really, really struggling with this proposal.
Well, let's wait till Thursday on it. See,
You brought it up.
No, but I shared with you all that I was going to bring back, give you an update on my meeting with them.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you the reason we're meeting on Thursday. There's
You're killing me, Mayor. You're killing me.
There's a lot of unanswered questions about where we are with that 32 acres in the EFBD. You know, I could not sit here and I have an audience of neighbors from villages and other places.
I'm not going to discuss the EFBD. I'm just going to discuss this.
And they're asking me questions about the status of the EFBD, and I don't have the answers.
Right. Well, I'm not going to discuss the EFBD.
So that's why.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the EFBD.
So
Thursday
we'll
talk about this.
Thursday we'll talk about it Thursday.
I don't like it.
We'll have a full discussion on Thursday, but anyone in the community, because I would really like to get input from the community on this concept.
Can you read that?
Maybe, Madam Clerk, if we can put it on our website, if you put a copy of the letter, we'll have it on the website. And I would really be interested in it's on there now.
With the attachments?
With the attachment. I would really be interested in the feedback from the community on this issue. So if you can go on the website and read it, I'm open, but I just fell in love with it. So let's see. Let's move on. We have interlocal agreement, FDOT, for distribution of... What's that?
Move it, Mayor.
Safety, LV funds for road improvement resolutions. A motion by Mr. Porter. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Ms. Garner.
Just a little comment. This is step one of getting the federal money allocated to 328th Street, so then we can get the county to move the same amount of $4.9 million over to Campbell to join up with the improvements at DDR. So we're basically leveraging that money from the county and moving it over to another county project. So we'll get basically an additional 4.9 from the county.
Let me ask you, Mr. Porter, and I mean, is there any way that, I know these transportation projects are moving forward, and I know some monies are county, some are federal, but I just think this council should get credit. So we have these signs up saying the commissioner, and this is their project. I just think it should be something that said the mayor and council and the manager and whomever.
We do some phantom stickers at night.
You understand what I'm saying? I think something should go up to say that this council has been very instrumental in these road projects that are going online. The county commission should get the credit for the $7 million we brought back from Washington, D.C.
We do two signs.
That is correct.
Pregnant?
Two signs, one for the county, one for us.
Put ours on top of theirs.
In the front of But I think it's appropriate that you do that.
This is a good thing, though. This finally gets the ball rolling.
Then properly moved and second. Any further discussion on it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 2F is a housing assistance plan amendment resolution.
Yes, Mayor and Council, as you recall, the city received a CDBG grant for $750,000 to cover disaster funding, recovery funding for the period of the storms between July 10th, 2005 and October 24th, 2005. Now, we have a housing assistance plan in place, but we had to amend and tweak that plan to fit some of the requirements for the grant that they're going to require and how they're going to fund this and how long.
This is a housekeeping issue, basically?
Yeah, housekeeping issue. You got 5 areas on the back, page 25 on the back there, that really Appendix B covers items that are going to be addressed, that had to be changed to be addressed.
Do we have a motion? Moved by Mr. Porter, a second by Ms. Waldman. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2G is the special event grant funds.
I'll move this, Mayor.
Moved by Ms. Bell, second by Mr. Porter.
Great.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I forgot.
Ms. Garner?
Thank you, Mayor. We have 2 items. The first is a proposed amendment to City Occupational License Tax Ordinance. This is actually a cleanup item. The state amended their statutes.
I'll move it.
Let me just explain for the audience real quick.
When you're through, I'll move it.
Thank you. Thank you. The state felt the term license led people to believe that somebody could actually do the job just because you paid to get the business license. So the state went ahead and changed the reference so that it's a local business tax. It's a luxury of doing business tax, not certifying that you're good at doing whatever it is. So they're just changing all the wording from license, and the person's going to get a receipt, not a license in return. So we're modeling after them, so this is just a cleanup item. Any comments from council? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Item is approved. Second, we have an amendment to the City Code, Chapter 15 and 30, housing standards and zoning. This is a new definition. We've had some comments about too many people living in one house that were not family. So this is an answer to this. There's a new definition of family which provides a limit in a residential occupancy. It states that family shall mean an individual or 2 or more persons related to one another by blood, marriage, or adoption, or no more than 5 unrelated persons living together as a single housekeeping unit. And this will allow us to enforce that. If there are more than 5 unrelated people living somewhere, it's not going to be cool anymore.
I'll move it.
Second with a question.
I have a question. Is this, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Can I ask
this
a question? Would we be able to, I have to do this delicately. In other words, does this mean that it starts right when this is passed, or can we go back? Because I know of several
We don't have
households
anything
where this-
retroactive in here, but if you tell the captain or the chief, she knows some places where as soon as this is passed, she wants your code enforcement to go visit.
I just didn't know if they were grandfathered in, or...
Oh, no,
there's
it's not grandfathering. It's just once this is approved, then we can enact
Right,
it.
2 readings on the ordinance, and then once the 2 readings occur, it'll be enforceable.
Because I know there are leases involved.
Question? Unless they're all on the lease.
Yeah, may I have a comment? Mr. Porter?
Well, at this particular, Chief, at this particular point through the code enforcement, what is the tool that you use when you have an overcrowding situation? Is that a minimum housing standard requirement? That's basically all you have. So this basically just is another tool, a more defined tool that gives your code enforcement officers clear code, clear ideas what they can and cannot enforce. Correct? It's a tool. It's a tool for the city.
We have standards there that I think our attorneys looked at those standards, and those standards seem to apply, and we didn't want to change those standards that we currently have. So the family definition and making a definition there added to the standards we already have to tighten it up.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further comments?
Yeah, I'm very pleased with this. I want to compliment Development Services as well for working on this. I know all of us have brought complaints back, and I brought this to Ms. Kamali many, many months ago, where we were getting a lot of complaints about multi-families living in one little place, and you would drive by and see 10 cars and a lot of trucks, especially after the hurricanes. We would have 10 men living in one little two-bedroom unit, and they really, under the old zoning, they were legal. Under the old zoning, they were legal because it was the total square footage of the whole place, including the bathroom and the kitchen. And so this really it corrects the issue. So this is very, very good. This is a very serious problem, and this is a step towards correcting it. Thank you very much, Ms. Garner.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bell.
Let's go on to one question. The definition, where did that come from? Is that a standard by some state statute, or is it something that we...
A neutral definition of family through the years has been developed by the courts, especially by the Supreme Court, and so this definition is one that you see in many codes, many municipal codes that reflect that language that's been upheld by the Supreme Court.
Good, thank you.
Did I have a motion? Yes. And a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Finance Committee, Councilwoman Bill.
Thank you. Our first is bid 200525 and 200535. Chemco Industries LLC, we have a change order. That's tab 9.
I'll move it. You don't have a choice.
Right, we don't. Second. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Item B is bid 200723. It's the sale of scrap transformers, capacitors, and
Move the
cables.
recommendation, Madam Chair.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from council? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Item C, John Deere 180 CW excavator purchase and resolution.
I'll move it with a question.
It's tab 11. Yes, Councilman Porter?
Do we have an employee to drive it?
At the time, yes.
How many employees do you have in the streets department?
I'm sorry?
How many employees do you have in the streets?
I don't know exactly the number.
We have 4 in the streets departments right now, and also this will be used also by the stormwater division as well. So
You're fast on your feet. You shifted it to stormwater. Not enough employees in the streets. Not enough. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further comments or questions? Thank you, Councilman Porter.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this budgeted?
Yes, this is, and we are getting it from the half-penny sales tax that's provided for these kinds of purchases. It is anticipated that this would actually save us money because it'll allow us to do our own storm drain installation, which we put out to contractors right now. So, Julio, do you have anything?
And Mayor, when I did my workday in Public Works, I was amazed at the equipment that we were able to purchase with the benefit of the half-penny sales tax. It's been very beneficial to the city of Homestead. Any comments, Julio?
no, that's it. That covers it.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further comments or questions?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. And I don't think item D has been scrapped, I believe, until, or is item D still on? Okay, item D has been very much discussed. Any further comments or questions from council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Nay. And the ayes carry. Thank you.
What was that?
Item 5 is Utility Committee, connection to sanitary sewer system, standby charge and ordinance, tab 13.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the staff recommends that the City Council consider a standby charge levied against each premise that has the ability to hook up to the sewers and is required to hook up to existing sewer system or sanitary sewer system that's available for them to hook up, and they haven't hooked up as of yet. We have certain areas where we have the sanitary sewer line existing. By law, people are supposed to hook up to those when they're existing. And we do have some, it's enforced by Durham, it's not, enforced. I mean, it's just a lot to do for Durham, and it doesn't get it totally enforced. So one of the ways that we encourage people to do this is to charge this standby charge as if it's like the same as our base rate. If you hook to the sewer, you have a base rate that you pay. So we charge a standby charge, whether you hook to it or not, until you're caught or you're forced to hook to it. And paying this money should encourage you to hook to it, because you're paying your base charge and not getting any benefit from it. So therefore, this is a little bit of a tool. You're required right now within 90 days of the availability of a sewer line and from your property to hook up to that. And that doesn't quite happen as often or untimely as it's required.
Mayor, I have a question.
Ms. Bell and then the Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Is this when you run new sewer lines and the people already have existing septic tanks and they're required to do away with their septic tank? And see, I really struggle with that. I really do, because most of them have properly working drain fields, properly maintained septic tanks, and now we come in and say, while they're not getting charged for sewer, of course they're being charged for water but not sewer, and now we step in and say, okay, now we want you to hook up. Now, if it's law and it's a requirement by law, there's not much I can do or say about it, but I'm just very uncomfortable with that. It's especially in the older neighborhoods, which I'm in an older neighborhood. I mean, I struggle with that.
Well,
I think Mike had something he wanted to
I
say.
was going to say a little more explanation of the background of why we're forcing people, or why we're phasing out.
Councilman Bell, council members, it's a state statute requirement, it's their requirement, county requirement, and it's also the city of Homestead requirement. And I also like to add to what the manager said, that this is similar to the charges we have for solid waste. People have to pay solid waste charges, whether it's in Homestead or anywhere, regardless of occupancy, because the garbage truck passes by the dwelling unit ready to pick up the garbage, so they pay for the infrastructure. And this is exactly the same. We pay for the infrastructure, we maintain the infrastructure, but they don't connect, and it's costing us to maintain the system to be ready for them to connect. So it's really to cover our expenses too.
Thank you. I'll support it, but I still struggle with it. Thank you, especially since it's law.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. How many units are we talking about? Do we have a number on that?
Right now, we estimate about 80.
80? Yeah. Is there any conceivable situation where the owner of one of those units would not possibly know that they're required to hook up? I mean, I've had people that say, well, I don't know whether or not this particular property is on sewer or not.
The owners are notified if there is available sewer. And from that point of notification, they have 90 days to connect, according to state statutes.
Okay, what would happen if during that 90-day period, or if they ignored us, and the property were sold and the buyer requested a lien letter? Would that requirement be indicated on the lien letter that we issue?
I'm not sure.
Probably not that I've never seen one. And not saying we do, but I could foresee a circumstance where we continue the citywide sewer projects. You can do my street last, by the way.
My street last.
Close enough. That you would have a buyer of a property who really legitimately did not know and had no way of knowing that they were required to expend after closing potentially a few things. I don't know, what's a hookup cost?
Mr. Losner, normally when we send a letter certified return slip, and also send the same information to them to send to the property owner, because our time frame and the county's time frame is exactly the same, so we like to notify them, so we are not in violation of the code of the county.
But we do have people that are ignoring us.
We have people who are ignoring us, and like the manager said, it's also, this is a deterrent, so you're placing this requirement there for them to hook up to the system. It's almost punitive. If you don't hook up, you're going to be paying the charge regardless, so what's the incentive not hooking up to the system? And we had a situation in the past where some owner said, I bought the property, I was not notified. We showed them that we did send it to the prior property owner certified return slip, and we provide them with copies of it. And of course, this was a disclosure issue with the prior owner.
Well, that's a private fraud issue or non-disclosure between the buyer and seller. But, I don't want us to be in a situation where there's not a fair chance of notice. After all, we throw all kinds of stuff on lien letters and notifications. But back up, what is the average cost of hooking up to a sewer?
Well, if you have to abandon the septic, it could be close to $5,000, depending on the size of the field. Is that a fair statement, guys?
That's really on the upper limit. It goes anywhere from $1,500 to, I would say, $3,000. But I also want to take the opportunity to say we have a financing mechanism for people who cannot do or don't have the money, where we finance it for them over, with monthly payments. And they could always coordinate with us, and we hook them up with the finance department to do this. And of course, it's only applicable to property owners who own it has to be an owner, so we can lien it if they walk away.
That was my next question. Do we have any of it? I guess we don't necessarily want the liability of doing the actual line to the house, but we have the opportunity for it to be paid in installments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Bowman?
I know elderly people that live in some of these neighborhoods. That's right. And even though you offer them a loan, long-term good financing loan, they're on fixed incomes. They can't pay that. They cannot pay that. And especially some of your older neighborhoods where people have lived there forever and a day. I mean, that's their home. And I'm afraid I would have to have some more information before I could vote affirmative on this, because it just, I'm thinking in my head of 4, 5, 15 people that I know that have lived in their homes forever, and they could not afford a payment. No way, shape, or form.
Well, there's a couple of possibilities. Part of that is true. There's a couple of possibilities. We have a fund that assists people in their electric utility. If we had hardship cases, there may be something we could work there. Secondly, the way things are looking at this time, that if you're anywhere within 10 years of your life expectancy, we probably won't put any new, in the older areas. The chance of putting in new sewer lines are right at the moment slim.
I know, but we're saying, though, that probably won't happen.
Well, if you have, right now, if you should have hooked up and haven't, then, yeah, you'd have that base charge that you would pay regardless, or at least be asked to pay or be billed for. Yeah, exactly. If they're existing, I don't know the demographics of the 80 people or so that are not hooked up right now.
Base charge is what?
There were some programs years ago that assist people based on income to hook up. I don't know whether it's a county program or state program.
Grants, I think.
Grants. There were some grants that I think at the county level. So we may want to look into that.
Yes.
Assist those people in that category. But it's income criteria.
And Mayor and council members, I also like to add that when we start this program, we had an issue with Sky Vista neighborhood once, and we revised the ordinance to allow them, if the sewer system existed, I think prior to 92 or 93, because we tied to Hurricane Andrew, and the improvements on the property existed prior to that time, we waive the connection charges and the impact fees. So that was a humongous help for the property owners.
Question, Mayor.
That's it.
Question, Mayor.
Mr. Porter?
What new sewer systems have been put in other than the CRA project, which basically feeds into the commercial corridor in the southwest community, right? That's the only sewer project.
Well, we had one, I think, in the northwest section that was as a result of a Durham issue, that we did that in lieu of a fine. We did that in the northwest section, I think.
Yeah, that was in connection with Wellfield. Basically, they want to have a certain amount of area surrounding our water well fields to have sewer lines instead of septic tanks for obvious contamination issues. And that's really the whole reason behind the state statute and the Durham requirement for tying into existing lines is basically they want to get away from the septic tanks and that water going back into the aquifer. And especially now with the water restrictions, it becomes even more critical.
Who are the violators that you say you've got about 80 some odd? That's new construction, right? Is it mostly new construction?
They're scattered throughout the city. It's usually older areas that have been for a while, not connecting. These are people that were notified in the past many years ago, and still no action has taken place. And let's just keep in mind that the connection to the sewer line is not a city requirement. It's actually we're mandated to follow the state statutes on that. We're just trying to come up with a mechanism that will give them some incentive to tie in other words.
But they're violating the law right now because it's a state law or it's a county statute. They're violating that. So you're putting another violation on top of them, which basically says not only are you violating the law because you haven't tied in, but now you're going to be assessed the charge because you haven't tied in.
Well, it's not a violation. It's not a charge, a punitive charge in essence. It's actually paying. The reason for the sewer-based charge is to pay for the capital infrastructure costs and also the maintenance of the infrastructure. If the infrastructure is already there, that means that we are incurring costs to keep it up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other discussion?
Well, I have to ask one more question. So are you saying this is a health issue? This could be a health?
That is one of the reasons for it, and specifically when it comes to well fields, that's one of the requirements that Durham has. But in essence, countywide, the county there's a moratorium on any new septic tanks being installed. So really, the idea is to get the whole county with sewer pipelines, basically.
All right, well, I guess I'm going to have to support it, but I don't want to support it. But I know that you will work with people who cannot afford this.
Yeah,
I need to.
We usually do a fairly good job of that.
Okay.
I had one thing, Mayor, if I may. On the ordinance there, under Section 28-141 rate schedule, item D, we don't have a dollar value in there, but the amount will be equal to whatever the applicable base charge is at the time this is passed.
So I think with the second or when we bring it to council meeting, we will refer to that section, coordination or our attorneys.
Good. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And item 5B is the proposed utility fee changes in ordinance.
I will move this.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell. Is there a second?
I'll second with a question.
Second by Councilman Porter with the question. Mr. Porter?
Why such a huge? We're that far behind. We're that far behind on the charges that we would have to go from $20 an hour to $40 a half an hour.
With the exception of the commercial primary fee, which here is kind of a cleanup of when it was last raised, and it was not quite worked out as we intended it to work out. The others haven't been within probably 5 years any change in these fees. I want to make sure everybody understands this is not a rate increase.
No.
It has nothing to do with rate. It's
to cover the cost
and repair the fees related to that.
May I have a comment?
Ms. Bell?
This is cost recovery, is what this is. This is not an additional fee. This is cost recovery. And when I took a look at how far behind we were and the charges, I mean, we were charging for engineering time and drafting, we were charging $12 an hour. I mean, that is how out of touch. So we need this very, very desperately. This is cost recovery. We want to be able to recoup the costs that are out of pocket for the city of Homestead. So it's a definite necessity. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. Bell, any non-agenda items for the committee?
One quick question. Julio, we talked about a month or so ago, I asked Sherry, Molly, and you if there was any possibility of getting either a left-hand turn signal or just a sign that allows left-hand turns within certain hours and certain days of the week outside of the movie theater and Chili's. Was there any discussion on that with the county?
Well, yeah, correct. And also, we instructed the consultants for the ones that are doing the improvements in that area to take a look at different possibilities of how to make that work.
Thank you.
So hopefully with the new improvements, when we go to 6 lanes, it'll be resolved at that point.
Thank you very much. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Mr. Vice Mayor, any business?
Kurt, have you received any update from the commission chambers on the annexation, or is that still pending this afternoon?
Actually, we just received during the meeting here, Mike did from Cherie, who's down there for us, that the Board of County Commissioners approved moving annexation Northwest 2 and the Southwest forward to go through the process.
Good.
So the way it works, it goes to the commission first to approve it, to go through the process, and it'll go through the process.
And back to the commission.
And then back to the commission for final approval.
Do we have unfiled applications that we can now move forward with? It seems to me there were some additional
On the
Northwest
east side,
pieces.
we were doing some items, and there's been some expressed interest, again, in the north side. Northwest 1's already moving in the process, because it was approved earlier, so it's already in that process for the county, so it's ahead of the others, and we do have others in the mix.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Mayor. Ms. Wilburn?
No, sir.
Ms. Garner? Mr. Porter? Mr. Manager?
Just that July 2nd would be a normal date for us to meet for council meeting. That has been canceled, so the next meeting will be the 16th, is that correct? July 16th will be our first. Yeah, we have the 12th. Is that a special call? I'm sorry, I didn't. What's the date of that, June? July 12th.
Madam Clerk, I thought that we are scheduling a special call meeting on the 10th prior to the COW.
Yes, that's still on. I'm just making sure that we didn't miss that week.
But a council meeting will not occur till the 16th.
The 16th.
Right.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I forgot to say that we need to remind people about our 4th of July festivities, so please do that.
Mr. Attorney, any business?
Just want to tell you that I'll be away for a little while. I'm going on vacation. I'm doing it at a very good time because there's nothing going on here that's controversial at all. So it's been a quiet meeting and enjoy another.
You planned that well.
Well, we will adjourn the meeting. I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. Have a good evening.